Hi friends, today I thought of sharing my process of creating a color palette based on a reference image before I actually start painting on a canvas. This reference image is of a lionfish, photographed by the Coastal Impact team in Goa during one of their dives. I'm going to color mix here on this oil paper sheet and eventually going to transfer the final color palette on this little card, which I will probably pin to this image so that when I start my painting on another day, I'm going to have a ready reference of the colors. Let's first identify one or two dominant hues in this picture. The first one is basically this green hue in the ocean underwater with a dark cool undertone in places, and then there's a gradation here where it turns lighter. And then the second important hue is the body of the fish. You'll notice that this seems like a beautiful brown which has a reddish undertone to it. While painting though, I will refrain from using brown and instead make it more interesting with purple magenta hues. And the last bits are the highlights or the accents, seen in the fins of the fish that are catching light in different angles, and of course this part which is the light coming through the top. Let's start mixing colors for the underwater ocean first. I'm going to work with 3 greens to see the possibilities of color mixing. So the first one is Viridian hue or phthalo green, which is a cool bluish green pigment. Then I've got a mid-toned neutral green, which is chromium oxide. And I'm going to test if a warm sap green is going to be useful at all. I'm going to avoid a green like this permanent light green, as I feel it's just not right for this underwater scene. And along with these greens, I'm going to mix a cadmium red deep hue to create dark shadows here. Remember, green and red are complementary colors, which basically sit on the opposite side of the color wheel, and when mixed form natural dark shadows. For the gradient of green over here, transitioning into this lit area, I'm going to keep an option of either mixing in titanium white or something like a cool Naples yellow. We'll come to that. Let's begin to swatch and mix the greens and the red pigment first. First is the cool Viridian green hue, which is a phthalo-based pigment and is usually highly staining and intense. This is the warm sap green. And then I'm going to put mid-green chromium oxide in the middle here. Let's observe these greens now. The warm sap green is such a beautiful green, but I feel it's not the best choice for the underwater tone I'm looking for, especially as a dominant hue. Just on its own, the mid-chromium oxide green already seems like a very good choice, and I think this will be my dominant hue. The Viridian hue is bright and may show promise in the form of highlights, I feel. Next, I'm going to add cadmium red deep hue to each of these greens and see the potential of dark shadows I can create. Now this seems interesting since the cad red with the sap green almost forms like this steep green-brown moss color with a red undertone peeking through. I wipe my paint off and next I mix the cad red deep hue with chromium oxide green. I think this is probably what I'm looking for, and it's a beautiful dark neutral for the shadows. Question is, can I go darker with this? So I'm going to add a little bit more of red to it. With a bit of mixing and adjustment, it now looks like a color that I can work with for the dark green tones of the water. Feel happy. So the possibilities are huge with this mid-chromium oxide green, and I'm starting to prefer it as my dominant hue compared to the sap green. But let's see. Next, I will try the Viridian green with a little bit of cad red It forms the most natural looking dark black, and also probably I could use it in some of these areas of the painting. You will notice that in the reference image, there is a gradient to greens with a play of light underwater. So next I will create the best version of these lighter greens. In other words, I'm going to check how to reduce the saturation of the greens or increase the value or lightness of the greens by adding titanium white, and I'll also try some Naples yellow. Once I'm done with this stage, it reassures me that the chromium oxide hue mixed with white and Naples yellow is still a good choice overall for the lit up green areas for the painting. But I'm very happy with the possibilities also that I see with the other desaturated greens for creating highlights, for example, on some parts of the fish. Next, I do the color mixing for the fish. I think the camera went off while I was recording this section initially. But nonetheless, for this part of the fish, which is basically the dark body, almost like a wine color, I'm going to use cadmium red deep hue that I already have on my palette. I will mix this red with two blues. One is French ultramarine and the other a phthalo blue. While I think both work, I would probably pick this reddish purple created with ultramarine warm blue for the body of the fish compared to the more bluish purple with a cool phthalo blue. So the last bit is color mixing for the highlights. I already have on my palette the Naples yellow and the white titanium. What I'm going to additionally bring in is a cadmium yellow. Mixing white with a cool Naples yellow gives that light tinted yellow that I'm looking for. This is already a lovely yellow that could actually go for this lit area underwater. The cadmium yellow leans more to being warm and is too bright, and even when lightened with white may not be the right choice. What I could do, however, for this part, the orange highlights, let's see if the cadmium yellow helps. The cad yellow, being more warm compared to Naples yellow, which is a cool yellow, leans naturally towards making the orange that I'm looking for when mixed with cad red deep hue. Naples yellow mixed with cadmium red deep hue leans towards making bright pinkish hues. So for the final stage, I'm going to transfer my shortlisted colors onto a mini swatch card and have it as an easy reference before I start an actual painting. So this is my dominant hue, which was the green chromium oxide, and its various tints and tones, like when mixed with its complementary cadmium red deep hue to form shadows, and then the lighter values when mixed with either titanium white or with Naples yellow. For the highlights, I'm trying to keep both these options of viridian green, but I think I'm going to change my mind later. And similarly for the highlights for the other parts, I choose this desaturated sap green. For the body of the fish, I'm going to go with this deep magenta, which came about when I mixed the cadmium red deep hue with ultramarine blue. And when tinted with white, it can form the reddish purple highlights of the body of the fish. And for some parts of the highlights on the fish, I'm going to choose the phthalo blue mixed with cadmium red, tinted with white, which gives me a cooler, more bluish purple. So I decided to remove the viridian blue options as they were seeming just too stark and contrasting, and I'll come back to just one as an option later. I feel I still need some really dark blacks on my palette, so I add that option where I mixed viridian green with the cadmium red. I also add some other final highlight options like the tinted orange created earlier, Naples yellow and viridian green, each desaturated with titanium white. So this is it, friends. This little card will be my reference color palette for when I actually start my painting. Spending time color mixing and coming up with a cohesive palette that includes a dominant hue, supporting hue, and highlights is not only an important step, but also very fulfilling for an artist. It helps to imagine the painting come alive through the process of creating a color palette. I can't wait to start this painting. Till then, I hope you found this video useful. Let me know in the comments below if you would like to see a full video of the painting process next. Thanks for watching.